So I just realized my hair's all messed up.
No problem at all. No problem at all. So, how has your day been?
Hectic. I literally just ran out of the phone store to make this call 1 minute before it started. So I
Okay.
wound up sitting in my car instead.
Okay.
I
Okay.
thought I'd get home to the office in time.
Okay.
You know how trips to the phone.
Right. I mean, if you want, how far are you? We can wait.
Oh no, it's fine.
All right. Okay. Okay. Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much for your previous podcast with attention economy, the business podcast, and now actually the reason I connected with you initially was because of your organ donation status, and that's where our acquaintance started. But there are so many multiple layers of I would say humanity and public service, in your personality that, I keep on, you know, uh, it keeps on revealing itself, and I keep
Oh,
on
okay.
pleasantly getting surprised with all these, endeavors that you have, and the outlook that you have for serving people, and humanist kind of outlook. So thank you so much for coming on our Life Immortal podcast. Basically, what we do is the app that we have that you already know about. We are using this platform to create awareness, not only for the app but also for the organ donation cause, and also for donors as well as recipients, because right now there is very limited scope for them to share their needs or requirements or whatever advancements that are going on in this field. And everything else, logistically speaking, is very archaic, and we are yet fully not deploying all the
Yeah.
technology in terms of vicinity, the proximity, geographical tagging, and all those things which we can really use to empower the process, and also in many cases avoid expiration of these organs that sometimes happen. So tell me about your organ donation journey, because you are not only, I think, you are also into bone marrow as well. Tell us about. Uh,
Yeah. I've been an organ donor since I was 16. I would they ask you at the DMV or first driver's license or is that you want to check that box? Like, I remember even thinking like, who would not check that box? You're dead. Who cares? What? And all you have to do is watch some videos. It takes 5 minutes on YouTube to see what a difference something like that could make
right,
for one person or many people, even for a donator. And then the bone marrow is, of course, even and a more of a no-brainer because you're not dead and you can still do it. Uh,
right,
I have the little card, little donation card. You're registered. It's up on my bulletin board above my office, and I did that many years ago, and it's been sitting there collecting dust. And I always think, I hope they call one day. Like, what an experience that would be to be able to
right,
step up and help somebody that you don't know, and
right.
you all go back to your own lives. And like again, who would not be willing to do that for somebody?
Right. But Jeff, when you were 16, then there was no YouTube. What was the process? I mean, who inspired you? I think it has a lot to do with your family upbringing, the way you were raised, and that empathy that should have been always a part of your mindset. Because I used to be a blood donor all my life, every year during a specific month when I was a practicing Muslim. I used to donate blood every year. But again, that was also inspired by family values, and whatever was inculcated in me through my parents, or you can say the environment. So tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, I think that probably is a similar story that as mine is it my parents are very philanthropic. They have set a very good example for helping people, and even if you don't know them, all the more reason to do what you can if you're in a position to help them.
Right.
uh you help them. Whether in the case I'm speaking is usually financially.
Right.
uh but I remember, growing up Christmas, we were fortunate. We had everything we needed, we were born on the right side of the track, so to speak. And you can't take that kind of thing for granted. And I remember at Christmas we started giving uh like goats, like farm aids in Africa to a village, or honeybees in Haiti.
Right.
How I have a well drilled. I remember my dad, for their anniversary, got my mom a well in a town outside of Ethiopia. That was her anniversary party. Of course, they never saw it, but
Wow.
they would get reports on the
Mm.
village now has water, and then that was Christmas, we'd sit around and we don't need more stuff, and that was a memorable Christmas because you thought, wow, that was really cool, like, and you get pictures of the village and a thank you note, and
Yes.
for what it costs, you don't get much back other than, the gratitude that you feel that you've helped somebody and you've improved one life or a whole village's life.
Right. I have witnessed firsthand such philanthropic work. The missionaries visiting Pakistan in remote areas where there was no water filtration plants, and where there were forced conversions by the local feudal lords, Muslim feudal lords, conversion of Hindus into Muslims. So that's where Salvation Army used to do this philanthropic work, and they used to install these water filtration plants. So I have made documentaries on that in remote regions of Pakistan. So I totally understand the sentiment. But what I'm trying to say is that besides how can we because when I started being an organ donor, it was a cool hip thing, that some celebrity did it and whatever, they donated their eyes or whatever,
Yeah.
yeah. So it was not a process, because again there were ethnic issues or dogmas which still exist, and tell me how to groom people into, like the other day we were discussing about in England it is like mandatory for everybody to be an
Right.
yeah.
I've told people about that since you taught me that. I thought that was really fantastic. And again, why aren't we all doing that? Um, yeah, I guess it depends on the person. Like I said, back when I was 16, it was a little sticker in the back of your license, and it would eventually wear off. And I remember thinking, oh, it wore off. Like, what if I die and they don't know I'm an organ donor? And I went into the DMV and like, oh, well, you're in the system. I'm like, no, I want another sticker. I want to be able to see that.
Right.
The visual component of I feel comfortable knowing that's on there, and I feel assured that it's going to go the route it needs to go should circumstances call for it. But with Life Immortal, fast forward 45 years, um, and here we are in the tech world, and it's easy to say, okay, I'm a part of this, or I'm involved with this, and I can prove it by this app,
Right.
and not to mention the ease with which the whole point of your app, the ease with which is facilitation of donors versus recipients, connecting everyone with geography and
Right.
size and blood type and all the different factors that are involved. We can do that like that now.
That's
You
right.
know,
That's right.
Before I would imagine it took phone calls and coordinations and even before emails. So
That's true.
the ease with which a product like Life Immortal could help people
Right.
is greatly increased today, and we're all fortunate to be living in such a time.
That's right. That's right. I mean, as a UX designer myself, I used to think, how I can summon my skills in a way that, that I can create something like that. So fortunately, in time, everything fell on the right place, and then with friends like my friend Romy Stein, and they with their financial support and backup, I was fortunate enough to do it in time. But what I'm saying is that even now, you're saying, for example, you mentioned that, for example, there is an emergency and that sticker is not there. However, there are still people who are skeptical and cynical and pessimistic about the fact that, and they say that because I have a lot of friends who are doctors, transplant doctors, or into organ donation space, and they tell me stories that people think that, if you are an organ donor and if they see it on your ID, then they don't the emergency staff doesn't save you.
Oh,
So
I
yeah.
never heard that.
Yes, yes, it's a floating. It's a very common misconception, and for example, I was in Queens Hospital Center, and the nurse saw that organ donation thing on my ID, and then she said, "Oh, I would never do that." So it was very shocking to me that you are in healthcare and you are there to serve humanity. And why would you why it was totally unnecessary to, of course, I had my protection shield around me of, being conscious and conscientious as well. But on the other side of the spectrum, you are thinking that, what about if, they don't get to know in emergency, because at the system will be there when you reach there. But if there is an emergency and you need to have, a hard ID in front of you, and that sticker would definitely help in saving lives, I mean, on your side, and whoever the recipient may be. But I mean, I ask you this because as a lawmaker as well, how can we facilitate an environment or cultivate a culture whereby, we can introduce something like that into legislation?
Yeah, I mean, making it mandatory, I think would be a tough sell. I
Mm.
hate to say that, I just think that would be a really uphill battle. It'd be probably the same groups that say, the government should have control of your body would be fighting that.
That's
You
right.
know,
That's right.
I could imagine that occurring.
That's right.
Ironically enough and disturbingly enough, I could picture that happening.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I mean, you get into that now with the whole, vaccine and masks and
Yes. Yes.
things like that. We don't want to
That's right.
devolve into that tangent, but you know what I'm talking about with
Yeah. Yes.
people fighting
Right.
logical
Yeah.
assumptions.
That's right. Yeah.
I think, in today's like social media world, I think promoting it outside of government would be the path of least resistance because you need to make it cool or hip to do it. You need
Right.
to, like I said, seeing some of those videos of, the lady's getting married and her son was killed in a car wreck, and then the guy who got his heart shows up at the wedding. You know,
Right.
like wow, like you watch one of those and you think
Right.
like if I'm dead, who cares? Like if I could make that happen after my death, I'm good. I'm,
That's true.
I'll,
That's true.
I'll sleep well, eternally, but, but I think making it hip, making it like you have the power to save someone's life or seven people's lives or restore vision or, a quality of life in some capacity.
That's right.
Um, all the better,
Yes. Yes.
it's,
But there is all like even in England, there is always an option of opting out if you don't want to, donate your organs.
yeah.
But I think that on this level, it can be really helpful because you are, quite influential in your community, and also the work that you're doing in space of medical tech with New Realm. That is also, can be cross promotional in a way that people already know that you are working in that direction.
Yeah. I mean, the majority of the projects with New Realm, uh, we deal with is depression and ADHD and suicidality, um, yeah, things more psychological.
Yes.
I guess, as a general statement, less, like less physical, like an organ and the things that cause disruptions and family
Right.
patterns and things
Right.
like that with
Right.
mobile apps. Um, so well, we do improve lives, and I'll go as far as to say that I think some of those depression apps and suicidality apps would even save some lives,
Yes. Definitely.
or have potential to. Um, we feel really good about that. I try to think like from your perspective, what you're doing, how we would work with that. I mean, we do mobile apps, but you're already
Yeah.
neck deep in that. You
Yeah,
know.
no, what I'm saying is that, for example, I mean, first of all, we are living in an age of mental health crisis, and an era. And I think right now, mental health issues need to be addressed more than, I think, of course, cancer is there, which needs tremendous research and improvement. But mental health is one thing that is intangible. And like you said, it is psychological, and this is intangible. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done, not only in terms of clinical side, but also in terms of right now there is a wave of, this consciousness and this world, this life is a simulation and manifestation and things like that. Or there is this revolution going on YouTube, where people are now from the spiritual side, they are now looking into, they're more curious than ever, because we are kind of hitting the saturation side of health, but mental health is one area that is very sublime and also subjective as well. And also there is no hardcore proof in terms of how, like for example, suicidal tendencies, anything can trigger it. There are so many uncontrollable factors in the environment that influence human beings and their decision making process, and depression for example. Or there
Yeah.
is vaping app that you have with Neuralum, which was can be helpful for decades to come. So what I'm saying is that from the age of 16 until now, your progress and your process of empowering other people positively and influencing them has been on the up and up. So what I'm trying to say is, how can we foster that kind of a culture?
I mean, word of mouth among families, I think would be the ground zero of,
Yes.
talk to your family
Right.
and let's all agree, because most families, I think, generally feel the same way about things, and if you have that at inception, you're good to go. Then you can talk to, friends and neighbors and social media, of course, I don't know, is there like an organ awareness month or organ donation awareness month or anything like that? Do you know of?
No, day, I think I know day, but not about month.
Okay, probably like a day or something. Promoting it on social media on that, make that an important day that everyone knows. Oh, that's that's the day you talk about organ donation with your friends or family, or spend 5 minutes that day having that conversation with somebody.
Right.
And if
That's a
that catches on, goes,
that's a great
that
that,
butterfly effect
yeah.
could.
Yeah, that's a great thing. Just talking about it, consciously, spending, allocating time to discuss it, and it could be, like AA meetings, something like that, that somebody got,
Yeah,
was a recipient, and then can share their story in terms of, in groups like that. Because
yeah,
on one hand, like people like Elon Musk and all, they're developing these chips and all to improve somehow these cognitive disabilities, so to say, for now, and neural functions. And but you also mentioned to me about that 3D printing of organs. Can you talk a little bit about that?
yeah. That was something I came across just a few years ago. It's fairly new. It was the first article I read was they had 3D printed corneas
Okay.
and put them in blind mice, and the mice could see. And
Okay.
I thought, why is this not front page? Why is everyone not talking? I'm sending this story out. Like, can you believe it? And everyone's like, oh, I never heard of that. And I'm
Right.
like, well, why is this not big news? So then I kind of like, let it go by the wayside, thinking, okay, well, that's a big step. I'm expecting to hear bigger and better news in the future, probably.
Mhm.
You didn't hear a whole lot, but if you go and you look and you research into it,
Yeah.
there's some amazing things going on with printing actual tissue.
Yes.
3D printers. 3D printers would start with plastic, glass, and metal.
Right.
And now we're talking human organs. And you think of all the sci-fi movies we watched as kids, Star Trek, somebody gets stabbed and they put them on the table and looks go in the MRI machine, you come back and you've got your new organ, or you're all healed and
Yes.
things like that. I don't think it's that far off when to think about that. When you look at these companies, and there's not many, and they're fairly secretive, by all admission, on what they're doing, but they are announcing milestone achievements.
Mhm.
Uh, and being here in Pittsburgh, we were actually the first organ transplant in the world.
Mhm.
Was right over here,
Oh,
about a mile from where I'm sitting.
oh, okay.
Um, yeah, Pittsburgh, the medical community in Pittsburgh was always at the leading edge. We cured polio in this
Oh,
neighborhood to my right.
wow.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, Jonas Salk. There's actually a sign about a mile from here where he lived when he came up with the idea how to cure polio.
Right.
So we're surrounded by cutting edge, groundbreaking, life changing decision making, processes here. Um, organ transplants. It's just like Pittsburgh, the University of Pittsburgh and Pittsburgh Medical Centers around. We're always leading that. The first, I think it was a pig heart, was the
Mhm.
first heart transplant into a human. Was over here near the hospital I was born in.
Okay.
So it was all. It's always been kind of like a bragging right in this town, at
Hi.
least, about
Why
the
not?
medical accomplishments.
Yeah, why
And
not?
that's a lot of reason we're based here with our medical research apps.
Right.
We have that community. You have 15 hospitals, and we're well, I could say this last year. I don't know about this year or next year, but the NIH funding was $1.2 billion to
Wow.
just the University of Pittsburgh in 1 year is the
Okay.
average, 1.2 billion, and that's number 7 in the country. So there are many institutions and universities and medical research centers around the country that receive even more than that.
Okay.
um, and those are universities that we historically have worked with,
Mhm.
to use that NIH grant money to develop these ideas that we do to improve lives. Um, and I'd be remiss without saying, of course, now we're on this downward trajectory of cutting funding and stopping programs. One of the main Alzheimer's research centers is at the University of Pittsburgh, and they're seeing funding cuts.
Oh my
And
God.
they're 6 months ago, they're on the verge of a major breakthrough. And my friend works there. She's an epidemiologist, and she said, in the next year, expect to hear a huge announcement, and don't be surprised if Alzheimer's is cured in our lifetime.
Oh, okay.
That's six
Wow.
months ago. Then Trump cuts the funding.
Right.
So,
Well,
I have yet to have anyone explain how this makes sense anyway, but that's where we're at.
I mean, we everybody knows about printing 3D guns, but nobody knows about 3D organs.
That's a very good point. Yeah. Yeah. So it's not front page news. So if it interests anyone on who's listening, I encourage you to do a deep dive. And it's just absolutely fascinating reading material. And
Absolutely.
it's just really exciting to think what's about to happen now. If they did this,
Yeah.
what's that going to springboard into?
Right.
You so it's going to be an exciting time regardless of funding cuts. I think, and that's all that stuff we're talking about is all private sector, of course.
Yeah.
That's people, there's maybe like 7 companies, as to the best of my knowledge, that are involved in that.
Mhm.
They're not publicly traded. They're just, keeping their hand close to the vest. Um, so but they're the ones who are going to be making money off of this, of course. But hopefully we'd all be recipients if needed on down the road.
Right.
But at the rate that they're making advancements, I foresee that in our lifetime, it could affect us. It could, or someone, you could see this go into play,
Yes.
with someone down the street, or your uncle, or your grandfather, or somebody that needs it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the thing is that first of all, I get so lost in your answer that I forget my question. But what I'm saying, what I'm saying is that we need to have a grip over this mental health crisis that we are going through, because essentially speaking, with the rise of these technocrats, like I mentioned, Noor Alam could be. Total interest for, like we discussed before as well, for Chan Zuckerberg initiative, or even for Apple's, for example, like the health apps they have, and or Google as well. They also have in their watch and Android. So that could be of potential, lot of potential interest. And of course, with all these vaping companies, if they have these apps as well, this could be the responsible side of it, because back in the day when I was into in advertising, and I used to write ads for cigarette brands, and for Rothmans, and what do you call, Philip Morris. So yeah, so they used to tell me, yeah. So
Be
they,
like five out of 6 doctors recommend
yes.
Marlboro.
Yes, yes, that's what I'm saying. So they used to write in their boardroom that thank you for smoking, and I did not smoke, and they used to tell me about the flavor of different tobaccos, and they said, how can we should explain to you, because you don't smoke, we can't tell you the difference, what is the positioning of this brand. I said, there is no positioning, you just want to sell it to underage smokers, that's it, right? And then they used to
Yeah.
have no answer, because that was the fact, that was
Yeah.
early adopters.
Well, you remember when they used to market candy cigarettes? I don't
Yes.
know where you grew up if they had that, but as a kid, and the whole psychology of that was as a boy, you got those and you walked around with it hanging out of your mouth because you thought it looked cool. And psychologically you thought, well, what's your next step? A real cigarette. Some
That's
older
right.
kid's gonna let you try one, right? And that's even better, even cooler.
That's right. Yeah.
I think the candy cigarettes are illegal now, and I think advertising cigarettes down low. They used to put the ads where at like 3 foot eye level, and they said, well, who are you trying to market to?
That's right.
But I think that changed as well. But pretty minor steps for something that's such a devastating product
That's
that's
right.
regulated and taxed by the government.
That's
You know,
right.
you can, you know, forget pharmaceuticals or marijuana or things like that that are questionable in most states or some states. But cigarettes and alcohol, hey, go have at it as long as we're making money and the lobbyists are strong, it's never going to change.
That's right. I mean, we in Pakistan, it used to be chewing gum, cigarette chewing gum. So you
Oh,
used
yeah, okay, yeah,
so you used to unwrap the cigarette, and then there was chewing gum inside, and that used to trigger me, that when my dad used to ask me to throw away the cigarette, the last part of it, the filter.
yeah,
So I used to take a puff out of it, just for curiosity. I mean, I never got into smoking, but what I'm saying is that the other day I was doing this comedy set, and I said, years from now, we will realize that video game was also an addiction, and there should have been some sort of checks, because they're saying that gambling is an addiction, but in gambling, at least you have a chance of making some money. Video game is just losing money, and we are from the days of arcade, and if I was saving all that money, I would have a BMW.
yeah. All the quarters, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and they even marketed. Remember, it was called Big League Chew, and it was chewing gum,
Yeah.
but it was made to look like chewing tobacco. And the front had a picture of a baseball pitcher because the baseball players always chewed tobacco.
Right.
So as kids, you would take the gum and you put it like it was tobacco in your lip, and but eventually you would chew it. And we all had it, and we played baseball and we would do it. And then they had um, chewing tobacco that was real mild, like peach flavored or mint flavored.
Right.
And when we were young, we started doing that because it was cool, right? And then you started using products that had more nicotine and more nicotine.
Yes.
And by the time I got hooked, and I was hooked for years on that stuff,
Mhm.
I was on the strongest Copenhagen. It's called Copenhagen, the
Okay.
strongest nicotine level that they can make.
Okay.
I would just fill my mouth with that all day long. And when I quit, when I left college, I said that's ridiculous. I've got to quit.
Mhm.
It was awful. My ears rang for a month. My hands shook.
Wow.
I gained like 30 pounds because I would take food, and when I ate, like I'd take candy and put it in my lip, like a psychological impact, like a physical impact in your lip,
Right.
like a placebo almost. It didn't do the trick, but I kept doing. I did it so much I gained like 30 pounds. It
Wow.
was like a seriously addictive. My ears rang for a month. I couldn't sleep.
Right.
Uh, why is that legal?
Yes.
It's
That's
like
true.
it was horrible.
That's
And
right.
it's funny when I quit and I got my first job after graduate school, I moved to the city of Nashville.
Huh.
And I said, okay, that's it. After finals, that's my last one. And I quit. And I did. But I moved to the city where Copenhagen was manufactured. So
Okay.
I ended up getting an apartment about a half a mile from the
My
warehouse
God.
where
Wow.
they made it. And once a month or so, the smokestack would go off and the
Oh,
entire city smelled like Copenhagen. And
damn.
my hands would start shaking again. I was quit
Wow.
for a year, and when I smelled that, my hands would start shaking. It
Wow.
was that impactful, and I thought, well, I moved to the wrong city.
Oh, of course.
And it had this big neon letters that said Copenhagen. At night, they would flash, and
Right.
I would close the blinds in my bedroom, or else I'd have to look at it, and then I'd want one. You
Right.
know, yeah, it was really, it was highly addicting. Totally legal, right? And they'd sell it to you as a kid.
Yes. And same is here about soda these days,
Yeah,
this carbonated drinks. Sylvester Stallone has been campaigning against it since 2002 or three, but and they have diversified into vitamin water and other, thing. But again, that's even more dangerous. All these Red Bulls and
yeah,
yeah, the other day they were sampling some new drink in in LA Fitness in my gym, and they said, "You want to try the watermelon flavor?" I said, "Yeah, okay, I'm going to try, but tell me how much caffeine in it."
Yeah. It was they and that was funny because I thought the other day when the feds announced that they were going to cut soda and energy drinks from SNAP benefits, food
Okay.
assistance,
Uh-huh.
which I didn't even know you could get, extra things like that with food assistance, but you could. And they said, well, no more because it's unhealthy and the government shouldn't be paying for those products that are.
Right.
And I remember thinking, this is the first time in 100 and what 50 days that I've actually agreed with something that the feds have done. I applaud that, and I said, I have friends who are on SNAP benefits,
Right.
and I can appreciate where they're coming from, and I'd be the first to say you shouldn't get those products with that free money, you
Yeah.
know. But it was funny. I was telling my wife, I said they finally did something I agree with, and she looked around. She said, "What did they do?" And I told her. She's like, "Okay, yeah, that's good." But it was like, okay, there's one tiny little thing in the big beautiful bill that I agree with.
Yeah.
One like 0.01% of the whole document. They got right.
But
So
at the same time, we should also lead by example, not with Coca-Cola and KFC.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so on one hand, we have this. However, with what about cloning? How does that? Is there any correlation in 3D printing and cloning? Because
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
they've cloned animals, right? And they've recreated animals from DNA, right? They just created some wolf or something that was some.
Yes, but again, the main core, back to square one. The issue that arises is the mental health, because it is not organically, developed. Yeah, in terms of.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to have a clone. I could use someone to cut the grass, like dinner, cut grass. What was that like? There was that Michael Keaton movie where he had like seven
Yes,
clones,
I was about to say, yeah, 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 yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
He's
in
from Pittsburgh too, by the way.
sci-fi. Sorry.
He's from Pittsburgh too, by the way.
Oh, okay, okay,
I keep giving plugs. I got to.
right.
Uh, but yeah, it was like I need someone to cut the grass, and I could date several women.
Or a body double for going into various different ceremonies and campaigns.
I
at the
think
same.
even in the future, let's like all jokes aside, if you did have like a clone in the warehouse, and you lost your arm or an organ, or you go and okay, there he's in refrigeration, go pull him out and take what you need out, like go into the fridge, and here's what I need today out of the fridge, and stitch me up and I'm
That's
back to work,
That is right. That's a plausible suggestion.
entirely
Yeah,
possible.
it can trigger a lot of thought for people who are looking to do something like that. Definitely, that's a possible. I mean, my grandmaster, my martial arts teacher in Pakistan, he had that specific look, and with the goatee and curly long hair, and our many of his students or my colleagues, they had the same. They took up the same because he was like a style icon, and then they were like, people used to say that, "Oh, sir, we had seen you over there." He said, "No, it wasn't me." So many times, yeah,
You could beat someone up and get away with it then.
yes, and they used to talk like him as well. And one time, even he told me that there was a sports program on television, and he said, why don't you take him instead of me? I'm not really good. And that's what happened. So, but again, the main issue that we always see in sci-fi movies, especially, which is very real as well, that the human brain and the mind takes time to cultivate and groom over the years, and these clones, they don't have the that mental capacity or faculties, so to say.
Yeah, I think. Have you ever seen the movie Elysium with Matt Damon?
Elysium, I think so, I
Where
have
the
seen.
rich people live on a spacecraft off of
Yes,
Earth. Earth
yes,
is degraded to the point where it's not very livable. It's only
right.
served by poor working class,
I have,
the
yeah,
super rich,
that's
and they
right,
have that machine where they basically can live, very long time.
that's right.
I think about that a lot because when you see the trifecta of the rich getting richer, the degradation of the planet, environmentally speaking,
That's right.
the look towards space,
That's right.
you know, healthcare advances.
Yes.
That movie is not far off. Uh, it's a very good movie. I've seen it several times, but
Yes, I
it's
have as well. Yeah, 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 yeah.
really makes you think like we might see something like that when all this talk of with rock rich guys
Already
launching
on the
off.
way. It's already
Off.
happening. I was
Yeah,
uh, I was watching Elon's Qatar interview, and he said that he's SpaceX is doing 80% of the space exploration, and 5% is probably done by China, and 5% other, and then Blue Horizon and this Virgin. So that's the thing that and like I said, even in health areas. They have all the money in the history of mankind, and that can be, really be used in the areas again, uh, through people such as yourself, that who have the lifelong journey of sticking to the cause, and also improving it and elevating it in terms of technology, and investment and of time, as well as having all the right intentions behind it.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, tell me a little bit about various activities in context of bone marrow transplant, or anything that you have done on the political front.
None, other than just getting on the registry. Um, it's just the sort of thing that, if you, again, you have the ability to help somebody and then just walk away, and that's I guess the main difference between like bone marrow and organ,
Uh-huh.
or some organs, of course, if you've passed and it's an organ transfer like that versus like a kidney or something like,
Right.
where you're okay, afterwards.
Right.
Uh, but the bone marrow I think is interesting because you don't have the issues with like organ size, for instance.
Yes.
If a little girl needs a heart, she can't take an adult heart. um with bone marrow, I don't believe that's an issue.
Okay.
uh, seen I've seen videos with people that, you meet your bone marrow donor who saved the little girl, and it's someone like us, and
Right.
it doesn't matter. And I think the options for donating are much broader too, as far as acceptability and things like that, versus an organ. You have to be, one in a billion, or one in a million maybe.
Yeah.
uh, so I think the opportunity would be even greater with something like bone marrow versus a specific organ, at a specific time and a specific place, and something that fits, and everything lines up and it works out and it's a beautiful story. Unfortunately, I think that's more of an exception than the rule.
Yes.
You would know better than I, but
No, no, no. I would actually, first of all, I have to add this option of bone marrow in Life Immortal app as well, because that's not there. Number one.
oh
Number
yeah.
two, yeah, yeah. And number two, I mean, again, like for example, this hysteria about stem cell is so much there that people have no knowledge or awareness about the importance of bone marrow and bone marrow donation as well. And so there is a rejection thing as well in bone marrow, or no?
I don't know.
Okay.
um I assume that there's some degree of that,
Okay.
um having to be compatible.
Right.
um, I'm actually dropping. There's a chat. I dropped there's a national registry.
Mhm.
There, it's in your chat.
Okay.
Uh, and that's what I'm signed up with. And I think there's only one group that really oversees that.
Okay.
So you definitely might want to coordinate.
Sure, sure. Yeah, well, I mean, if whatever you know about it, if you can, just a little bit
Not,
educate me
yeah,
or
honestly, I didn't do much other than see some instances where it helped somebody live, and it
okay,
was always children. And it's funny because the talk about US versus Europe, there's this very high percentage of donors that are German.
oh,
In Germany, it's I don't know if it's mandatory, but it's very popular to be on that registry.
okay,
And I got hooked one day on YouTube just watching these one after another and just really feel good
right,
videos.
right,
And there was like 75% of them that said, well, you're gonna go meet your bone marrow donor. And it's somebody from Germany came to the US to meet a little kid. And it was like an adult, male or female. and it seemed like it was always a kid, like with leukemia or something like that. Um, so I started looking into it, and it just no one seemed to know why, but it was very popular in Germany to be involved with that.
Right. Right.
So again, back to the geography, and I don't know where they had to go to do it, but
Right.
it would be nice if we said the U.S. was leading that,
Yes.
especially
Yes.
when U.S. kids getting the end result. Um, and it's just, I mean, they're just magical stories when this little kid would die and didn't take much effort, wasn't painful, it would, and just like I couldn't come up with a reason why somebody would not do it, you
Yes.
know. But again, we're back to the psychology of,
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you and I should, make a pressure group for these changes to be created. And, because the thing is, at this time, there is people don't know what they don't know actually. If definitely there is awareness and people know about it, of course, there will be a small percentage, but there will be some sort of movement and improvement in that area. And
well, if you do move forward with that and you're looking for someone to get on your team, let me know. You
sure.
know, I can help or whatever. If we can help that happen, if you need some help, reach out and I'll be happy to do what I can.
So much. Thank you so much. Yeah, because that's what we need, that kind of guidance, because we have raw passion, I had knowledge about my side of profession and skills, so I, just tried to translate them into this app. But definitely, with there will be more question if there will be your guidance involved as well at some stage, it's gonna because again, there is this stem cell mania going on everywhere. That is the magic bullet that fixes everything. But there's again much more awareness that can be created, and different forms of organ donation. And of course, we will utilize your influence and your experience in taking things to the next level. And again, thank you so much for your time. And sorry to bother you in your car. And
No, sorry I didn't get back to the office in time. Sorry for the unprofessional background,
no,
but
no, no, it's not professional. It's
always
all
great
about
seeing
love
you.
and passion. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Always great seeing you and talking with you, and look forward to our next conversation.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. Are we? I know. Do we have a time limit, or
No, no, there's no time limit, but again, I won't want to hold
we got
you
cut off on the
for
last
long
one? I
as well.
wasn't.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wasn't aware of the last one. I think I was still
Yes,
talking when it
yes, yes.
stopped, but
Yeah, yeah.
didn't
But
know if that was.
no, it's open, and because I didn't know that, what directions it might take, because when you mentioned about 3D printing of the organs, it opened a huge multiverse in my head, and my brain went into this speed mode again, as to how we can deploy those things, for the rightful purpose. Because if it is there, then why not? But like you said about Life Immortal, it should have been done decades ago. But again, our priorities are about going to Mars, and there is so much that can be fixed here. And good thing that Earth recycles itself, no matter how much we try to destruct it. But again, there are warnings, and there are limits to it, and there is limits to healing as well. But we as humans can do as much as we can, possibly try. But again, we need a collective force, and collective effort, so that everyone can. I mean, first of all, there has to be a culture of awareness about this, and like you said, make it cool and happy, and that will convert a lot of people, and attract. I'm just sharing this app details into various Facebook organ donation groups, and a lot of people are coming on, because of information sharing age. People are more receptive and more open to new ideas, and of course, there is no hard sell involved. Just take a feel and see if you can make an impact. And if yes, then good. If not, then it's a matter of time. It grows on you, and then finally, maybe someday, each one of us are able to help someone else. Because again, as a species, this is a rare opportunity for humans, And I don't think so in maybe 100 years or so any other species will be able to do it, or maybe something down there in the ocean's depth, some they're already doing something like that. But as of now, we can make this conscious effort to help our fellow human beings and live forever.
Yeah, beautifully stated. Well, if anyone can make an impact, I'm sure it's you.
No, no,
Uh,
thank you so much. No, it's you because you have that circle of influence that can move and shake things. So thank you, always. And I would
Better way-
love to connect with you on your Noor Alam, because there are so many different technologies involved, and each one needs a lot of attention and must be beamed on a mass level, so that there is more traction, and then there is room for receiving it as well, because they are very, very deep and have tremendous potential for especially for our next generation.
Right, right. Well, if you ever need me, personally or professionally, reach out and keep the conversation going.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jeff, once again.
All
And
right, thank you. Good seeing you.
all right. Thank
Have a
you.
great day.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye.